April and we're celebrating.
Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. K-Man Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The K-Man Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central, for more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. Fidelity Bank, for all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you. And Roper's Janitorial, complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Ort Connor.
And welcome to For the Record on this beautiful Wednesday morning, right here in our beautiful Cayman Islands. I'm Donna Bush in for Mr. Ort Connor today. It's a pleasure to have you joining us if you're listening on your way into work or at the office or at home. This morning I have some important guests in-house with us. We have Dr. Steve McPhail as well as Mrs. Teresa Pitcairn, both attorneys at law. You'll be familiar with them as they are the voices for so many here in our wonderful islands. This morning we're going to be talking about constitutional changes, and there's been some discussions prior to this morning's show about those changes that have been proposed in a letter from Lord Ahmad from the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. We're going to begin by just kind of giving an overview of the initial discussions surrounding this topic for those of you who may not have tuned in when that happened. We're going to start with Dr. McPhail explaining what the constitutional changes are and giving us an overview of the prior discussion. Welcome both of you to the show.
Good morning, Donna, and good morning, Teresa Pitcairn, my friend, and good morning to all the people in For the Record land, and good morning to those in the diaspora who listens every morning, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning to Ort, and good morning to Ort wherever he is. I hope he's listening also. This morning we are going to try to continue our discussion concerning the proposed changes in the Constitution that the Premier said that he was able to ascertain from the British Colonial Office. For me personally, I am so happy that the changes are coming because I have been advocating these kind of changes ever since I was a teenager. Many of the people in the diaspora probably don't know that I was ostracized from my own country once by the administration, that the people in power at the time, because I wrote a letter to the United Nations asking for full internal self-government for the Cayman Islands, and the United Nations Decolonization Committee turned my letter into a petition from an individual and circulated it through the United Nations. And of course it went to the administering country, which is Great Britain, and they contacted the Cayman Islands, and I was a student at the University of British Columbia at the time, and I was told in no uncertain terms that I would not be welcomed back to this country by the administration that was in power at the particular time. And primarily because, as my good friend Dr. Neil Panton said the last evening at the University College when he was honored with a honorary doctorate, he thanked me for being a good disciple of his father, Mr. Ormond Panton. I have always been a disciple of Ormond Panton, who had struggled and gave up his whole career for full internal self-government of the islands. and I see that the Premier has taken the same path and is trying to get as much autonomy for Cayman as possible. And that's the reason why I got out of my bed early this morning to come to the radio station to share these things with our people, because I love my country and I love to be free. My freedom came in 1835 when I stopped. My ancestors stopped picking cotton. We don't have to pick cotton anymore. And now we need to have our own autonomy, to build our own nation, to build our own country. And this is one of the steps in which we are going to accomplish that feat. So this morning, we are going to try to explain what the Premier is trying to do. Premier, the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, and he has been able to get these changes, especially the changes which are going to give the cabinet, the Caymanian people, the legislature more power, more autonomy to run their own affairs in their own country, and not having their affairs run by someone who are 4,000 and 5,000 miles away and who don't know anything about how we got here and how our country started and how we want to proceed with our country in the future. And so that's the reason why I'm here this morning. Okay,
it's great to have you here, Dr. McPhail. But if the average person out there, when they hear internal self-government, some people may think independence. Where are we going towards independence? So if you could just, for those of us in, the average listener, the average Caymanian who may not understand the jargon of law, can you explain to us what the difference is?
Well, internal self-government is when we are completely autonomous in running our own internal affairs.
Right.
The British government will still have the reserve powers, that is set out in Section 125 of the Constitution, which says that Her Majesty has the reserve powers to make laws for the peace, order, and good governance of the country. Mm-hmm. That will not that will continue and exist until we got full independence, when the British flag will be pulled down from the flag mast and the Caymanian flag will go up, and where we'll have our own anthem. Full internal self-government is when we are completely autonomous for our internal affairs. Everything internally for Cayman, we will have the right to make laws for that and to be in charge of that. And independence is where we don't have the British government over us anymore, where we don't have a governor who dictates and is still part of the cabinet and can dictate and can hire and fire civil servants and can do all those things. Internal self-government is when we are in control of our police, our security, and all of those things ourselves. Internal self-government is when you'll see that we don't have the deputy governor in the legislature and the financial and the attorney general. Those positions will probably be elected positions by the people. The people will send those people to the legislature to conduct their business, and not the crown selecting them to represent the crown. Those are some of the difference between independence and self-government. Independence is when we're completely independent. We'll have a governor, but then we will have a say in who becomes governor, and our legislature will become dominant. We will make our own laws, and the British government will not be able to make laws that affect us by orders and councils that will tell us what to do and push us here and push us there in the places where we don't belong. So those are the difference. Okay. Internal self-government actually says what it says. Internally, we control the laws and the affairs of our own country by our own elected people.
Okay. I think that's a great explanation. With that, we're going to move on and talk about some verbiage that's been changed. Like, it's not going to be referred to as a legislative assembly anymore, but rather parliament. Which brings me, sorry.
Well, when we left off last week, I think we were discussing some of the changes, and I think we had gotten to we had
Parliamentary secretaries, maybe?
I think we had gotten to the amendment to Section 44 of the Constitution. We had gotten to that.
And what does that say?
So just let me, if you allow me to read Section 44.
Yes, sir.
Of the present Constitution. It deals with the cabinet. It says, there shall be a cabinet in and for the Cayman Islands, which shall consist of a premier appointed by the governor in accordance with Section 49(2) or 3, 6 other ministers, one of whom shall be a deputy premier appointed by the governor, acting in accordance with the advice of the premier from among the elected members of the Legislative Assembly, and the deputy governor and the attorney general ex officio. The number of ministers referred to in Section 1 may be increased by a law made pursuant to Section 62, which increases the number of elected members of the Legislative Assembly, but in no circumstances may the number of ministers exceed 2/5 of the total number of elected members of the Assembly. The cabinet shall have responsibility for the formulation of policy, including directing the implementation of such policies insofar as it relates to every aspects of government except those matters for which the governor has special responsibility under Section 55, and the cabinet shall be collectively responsible to the Legislative Assembly for such policies and their implementation. And subject to this Constitution, the cabinet shall determine its own procedure for the conduct of business.
Okay.
Now that has been amended somewhat.
Okay.
To give it more autonomy. And this is what the amendment says. Section 44(1) of the Constitution is amended in paragraph B by substituting for the word 6 the word 7. In other words, the number of ministers by increased by law, and instead of 6, it's 7. And it says Section 44(2) of the Constitution is amended by inserting the words +1 after the word 2/5. So where it says that the number of ministers may exceed 2/5 may not exceed 2/5 of the total number of elected members of the Assembly, that is now changed to +1 rather than 2/5. And then Section 4 of the Constitution, the cabinet is amended by adding the following new sections after Section 4. For the avoidance of doubt, it is declared subject to this Constitution, this is the new amendment now,
Yes.
that the cabinet possesses autonomous and exclusive capacity in domestic affairs for any matter that is not one of the following. A special responsibility of the governor under Section 55. B, a function which the governor must exercise under this Constitution or any other law in his or her discretion or judgment or in accordance with instructions from Her Majesty through a Secretary of State, or a function which the governor is empowered to direct either expressly or by necessary implication to exercise without consulting the cabinet, or to exercise on the recommendation or advice or after consultation with any person or authority other than the cabinet. So what Section 4 amendment does, it takes the power away from the governor to dictate to the cabinet and gives the cabinet complete autonomy over all of the affairs locally except those that are responsible. The governor has responsibility for in Section 55. And Section 55, those are the police, the civil service, internal security, and so forth, and external affairs.
Okay.
Those are the ones that the governor has responsibility for, and those things are he conducts that portfolio through the deputy governor and through the attorney general.
Okay.
So now it says that the cabinet now has full autonomy, and this is something that we have been fighting for years and for generations and generations. And I'm so happy that the premier has been able to have the British government to accede to this and give us this autonomy, give us this right to conduct our own affairs.
Dr. McPhail, we're going to stick a pin there and take a break here. And for the record, we'll be back in just a few minutes.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs. The Cayman Islands, He hath founded it upon the seas.
Following the storm of 1932, Cayman Brac, under the initiative of Commissioner A.W. Cardinal, engaged in several different industries to boost their recovery efforts. Sharks were actively fished for their skins, which were then shipped via Jamaica to New York. For perspective, one good shark skin over 35 inches could feed a family for a week. Egging became more common. The practice of egging meant traveling hundreds of miles to the Sorana, Pedro, and Morant Cays and collecting birds' eggs and then shipping them direct to Jamaica. The eggs would value at £4 per thousand, with the season record being 291,000 eggs collected. Cattle and goat hide tanning was also a trade unique to the Brac by the Lazari family in Northeast Bay. Its leather products supplied the sister islands and was exported to Jamaica and sold in Grand Cayman. Radio Cayman's historical facts vignettes are proudly brought to you by Cayman National, with branches on all 3 Cayman Islands. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
When you need stability, think Business of the Year.
Considering a new career opportunity, think Best Place to Work.
When dependability matters, think Outstanding Workforce.
In need of a reliable financial partner? Think Bank of the Year.
When you seek excellence, think Cayman National.
No matter how many accomplishments we achieve, we always set the bar higher. That's why we are the most awarded bank in Cayman, and we are proud to be your
2018 Bank of the Year.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
I'm starting my shopping early this year. What you want for Christmas?
All I really want for Christmas is for my packages to arrive on time.
Plan ahead to get your shipments into Seaboard Marine on time and avoid the holiday rush. Check out their great less-than-container shipment rates. Seaboard saves you time, money, and convenience with consolidation and repacking options available. Take a load off Santa this holiday season. Shop, ship, and save on your small packages with Seaboard Marine. Give us a call at 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com/grand-cayman for quotes or additional details.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Saturday, November 30, just before Christmas. You, yes, you can be the grand prize winner of $40,000 with your Rotary Central Music Extravaganza ticket purchase of only $25. Win that grand prize of $40,000. Second prize of $4,000, 6 $1,000 prizes, and more. Yes, Saturday, November 30, the 24th Rotary Central Music Extravaganza, Royal Palms, West Bay Road from 7 p.m. Music by Sugar Daddy, C&B, Leslie Duran, and Trio Caribe. Get your golden tickets now on sale through Rotary Central members, Rotary ticket sellers, and eventpro.ky. Every ticket funds a cause. Rotary Central, 50 community projects over 33 years. Your ticket can be the winner. Your ticket, your chance, your community. Rotary, connecting the world.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the record.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
And welcome back to For the Record. I'm Donna Bush in this morning for Mr. Connor. If you're just joining us, we're talking about constitutional changes that are underway for the Cayman Islands. Joining me this morning are Dr. Steve McPhail, attorney at law, as well as Mrs. Teresa Pitcairn, attorney at law as well. It's great to have them both in studio. If you'd like to give us a call, though, and jump in on the conversation, or you have any questions that you'd like them to address for you, the numbers to call are toll-free 1-800-534-8255, 949-8037, 949-6990. We're going to continue the conversation now with Mrs. Pitcairn, who is going to address some of the things that we've been discussing here this morning. Welcome again.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Donna, for having both of us, Steve and I.
Absolutely.
Also, the community at home and in the diaspora. Thank you so much for sharing this opportunity to have conversation with us. And with that, I'll just move on. So there were a couple of things that I wanted to comment on with respect to Dr. McPhail's observations.
Mm-hmm.
And with me on the show, whilst I am familiar with the material, I usually try to invoke and invite us to think about the social consequences of some of the things.
Yes.
So you'll notice that, and I hadn't intended to do that, but was listening to Steve when he was talking about how he was treated by leaders on island because he was innovative, he was bold, he was articulate, he was smart, and he was willing to do something that the average person would not have done, which is to write to the UN, talking about internal self-government and emancipation. And he's already told you the difference between internal self-government and independence. So the comment that I made and the note that I made to myself, speaking the truth should not be sacrificial. And I know I have paid a price. Roy has paid a price. Steve, Frank, and others have paid a price simply because you speak the truth, and especially when you have the evidence of that truth. So it shouldn't be sacrificial. Governments that are autocratic rely on our silence, and they prefer it when we whisper. So when we talk about Caymanians being on the porch and they cowering and they talking among themselves, and the minute you ask them to stand up and be counted, you look behind and not a soul there to actually support you. The other thing was that we now have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because if you're not interested in your community moving forward, things will just remain the same. So it's just like when you have a family and you have issues that are challenging. You may not want to talk about it, but you have to talk about it in order to resolve the issue. So I was just saying we need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Sure. The final comment I was going to make was with Steve's comment again, and he's always using this maritime analogy with Gerard, one of our previous governors. And he says, and this is the context now of us having the cabinet with the level of autonomy that we will be granted if there is consensus. That's right. I think Ahmad says broad-based support with the politicians and community and so on. Mm-hmm. Every captain, when you're on the ship, everybody want to be captain. Mm-hmm. And, if everybody not captain, they going down into the engine room and they gonna mash it up. That's been our legacy as Caymanians. Now, the challenge is to see whether or not in 1919, moving to 2019, I told you I didn't get much sleep in Adonna. I told you that this morning. Okay. 2019 to 2020, whether or not we will respect each other enough, irrespective of abilities when you're in the government, because you have to work together and find consensus about what is in the best interest of the community. Democracy, as we understand it, as I started when I shared in the last Wednesday, is not one that I necessarily like. This participatory democracy, as we know it about policy, it's not necessarily the best, but it's the best thing that human beings so far has been able to develop in terms of leadership, because you got that or autocracy or oligarchy. Right. Democracy right now is what reigns, but we're looking at the United States and see how it don't just reign. we need to find a place where we can actually sit down, even when you're on the opposite side of the house. Find a way, find consensus, because referendum is not the best way to lead our country. So I'd like to throw that out there and start thinking about it instead of being stuck in this place where we waste the taxpayers' money. Our money. We don't even have a say in terms of how much is spent. So they waste and trivialize our value as voters, and we allow them to do it. We don't hold anyone accountable. Let us now start to move forward, get into a better place. Look how many children we got graduating every year. What percentage of them will come back home, or if those that are staying, how many of them will have jobs? That's my thing. So I wanted to throw it out in the context of this change because it's a brilliant change. It's a useful change. Let's use it in the best interest of the Caymanian people.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about some of those changes and exactly what those changes mean as it relates to Parliament. One of the things that we're going to be discussing is parliamentary secretaries. What's the significance of the parliamentary secretary?
Well, parliamentary secretaries are people who assist ministers. And since we don't have a Senate, since we don't have a bicameral house, that means an upper house and a lower house, like some other legislatures around the Caribbean. Like Jamaica has an upper house and a lower house, and I think British Virgin Island has an upper house and a lower house, where you can appoint people to the Senate. And once they're appointed as a senator, then you can become a minister. We don't have that in our constitution as yet. So what we have been doing, we have been substituting that kind of position for what we call counselors, which is unconstitutional. There is no constitutional provisions for a counselor in our constitution. So the government has been acting unconstitutional by having these counselors, because I don't know what would happen if they did something that was controversial, that was caused a court case or a claim, how they would go about it. Whether it would be legal or illegal, what their actions are legal or illegal. So what the government has done is that they have plugged that loophole by an amendment to the Constitution, which says that they have amended the Section 48. They have amended Section 48. And now we have, they have, let me see what section they have amended. They have amended.
Okay, we're going to stick a pin there, give that some thought, and we're going to come right back in just a few minutes after we take this break.
Thank you, Donna. And studio time now by Price Right is 8 o'clock.
Price Right is Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore, making your dollar go for savings and no membership fees. Get more of the things you use every day at the right price. But it's not just grocery and health and beauty. Price Right has a full range of products from office to automotive, patio furnishings to kitchen appliances, and even electronics. And since warehouse prices mean savings for you, everything is priced right at Price Right, Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by Sagicor. Let us put a smile on your face. Call 949-8211.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. Finance Committee starts this morning as legislators tackle the largest budget in the island's history. They'll also be meeting to discuss constitutional amendments.
There is some real-time pressure to get this done, Mr. Speaker.
Premier the Honourable Alden McLaughlin says members of the Legislative Assembly need to talk through any issues in order to communicate their decision to Lord Ahmad of Wimbledon, the Minister of State for the Overseas Territories.
The Leader of the Opposition and I have agreed tentatively that we should be able to move this forward by way of a motion to this House following the close of the proceedings in Finance Committee.
Finance Committee meets at 9:30 this morning. Make sure to tune into our sister station, 105.3 Breeze FM, to listen in on the proceedings live. CPR Cayman announces the lineup for its referendum campaign, which launches tonight. Radio Cayman's April Cummings has more.
Guest speakers for the referendum campaign launch include historian and author Dr. Roy Bodden, former Director of Tourism Mrs. Angela Martins, the Central Caribbean Marine Institute, radio personality and entrepreneur Ms. Ruthanna Young, and MLA for Boddentown West Chris Saunders, as well as Georgetown Central MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan. The campaign launch kicks off at 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday evening at Celebration Park in downtown Georgetown beside the courthouse. Organizers have invited the public to participate in the event, which launches the island's first people-initiated referendum. And with just 4 weeks to go to the referendum, CPR says it is important for people not only to get informed, but to come out and vote in record numbers so their voices will be heard on December 19th. April Cummings, Radio Cayman News.
And Cayman was the only foreign aircraft register in attendance at one of the largest aviation trade shows in the world recently. Radio Cayman's Shanna Gallego brings us this report.
Held in Vegas, the Business Aviation Convention and Exhibition 2019 attracted more than 25,000 attendees and over 1,000 exhibitors over 3 days. The Cayman Islands booth was jointly staged by Civil Aviation Authority Cayman Islands, Island Air, and Cayman Enterprise City. The Department of Tourism and law firm Maple supplied general destination and legal materials targeted to the aviation-savvy audience. In addition to 1 million plus square feet of exhibition space, more than 100 aircraft were displayed at a static display at the Henderson Executive Airport. Civil Aviation Authority Deputy General Nicola McCoy explains the importance to the Cayman Islands of attending the convention and others like it around the world.
As one of the offshore jurisdictions offering aircraft registration primarily to the private and corporate aircraft registered globally, we find that it is a wonderful meeting place for potential as well as existing clientele. We do take our technical teams with us for airworthiness and flight operations, because many times we get questions in regards to the operations of an aircraft on the registry. And you find that we'll get many inquiries coming out of these attendances year after year.
Each year, Civil Aviation works with local businesses to raffle a prize package at the convention. Sponsors this year included Cayman Airways Limited, the Grand Caymanian Resort, the Lobster Pot, and Rockies Diamonds.
Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Karsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with Jerry Smith. A former employee of Britain's consulate in Hong Kong has said he was tortured after being detained on a trip to mainland China in August. Simon Cheng told the BBC that he was shackled, blindfolded and held in stress positions. He said he was accused of inciting unrest in Hong Kong. China has reacted angrily after the US Senate passed a bill which could strip Hong Kong of its special trading status if it fails to uphold democracy. Beijing threatens strong countermeasures. Russia has condemned a series of Israeli airstrikes on dozens of targets in Syria belonging to the Syrian government and its Iranian allies. Moscow said such attacks were completely against international law. Police in Malta have arrested one of the island's most prominent businessmen, Jorgen Fennick. It's in connection with an investigation into the murder of a journalist, Daphne Caruana Galizia. BBC News.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by Sagicor. Let us put a smile on your face. Call 949-8211.
Think about something that makes you happy. Did it make you smile? We know it did, because that's what we do at Sagicor. Put smiles on our clients' faces every day. With a large range of products to cover your family, it's no wonder most locals choose Sagicor for their life insurance needs. Serving the community for over 25 years. Let us put a smile on your face. Call your Sagicor advisor today.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
The Cayman Islands National Museum invites you to join them for their 29th anniversary and Christmas Bazaar celebrations, Saturday 23rd November from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. at the National Museum on the waterfront. Come join in on their festivities, visit their talented traditional artisans and vendors, check out new enhancements to the Cayman Airways exhibition, and get your early Christmas shopping done. Admission is free for all. Enjoy a day of wholesome family celebrations at the Cayman Islands National Museum, Saturday, November 23rd.
Sign up for the DCFS Universal Children's Day 5K Run Walk and help families in need. Sunday, 24th November, starting 6 a.m. at Dragon Bay Safe Haven. The theme is
I Have a Voice.
Hear me roar. Feel free to wear something on the wild side. Entry fee is only $15 for adults, $5 for children, 16 years old and younger, with t-shirts for the first 75 registrants, with a free raffle for all. Register at CaymanActive.com. There will be a special registration day at the Government Administration Building for cash payments on Wednesday, November 20th between noon and 4 p.m.
Radio Cayman has always worked to showcase the best of our sister islands of Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. From coverage of the agriculture shows, special Talk Today broadcast, and church services. 4 years ago, we launched the Brac Breeze Fusion 5K Walk Run. In our inaugural year, we raised funds for the Harmony Learning Center. In year 2, for the Lions Club of Cayman Brac Kids Pantry. And last year, the Sew and Sew Club. This year, the Brac Breeze Fusion will be raising funds for the Leo's Club of Cayman Brac. To all of our Cayman Brac families, we invite you to join us on Saturday, November 30th at 6:30 a.m. Southside Public Beach. Step by step, we can do it.
Cayman Brac, yes, it is your turn. The Breeze Fusion 5K Walk Run.
Register today at District Administration.
The Weather Report is proudly sponsored by Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center, your one-stop household store at 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best prices in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it, drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Good morning. Time now to take a look at the latest weather report. Current temperature is 82 degrees. Relative humidity is 70%. Barometric pressure 29.98 inches and rising. The wind is northeast at 7 knots. Overnight low temperature was 77 degrees. Synopsis indicate partly cloudy skies along with moderate northeast winds and seas will continue across the Cayman area for the next 24 hours. As a high-pressure system builds over the southeastern United States. Radar images show isolated showers in and around the Cayman area moving south. The National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida is issuing advisories on Tropical Storm Sebastian. At last check, Sebastian was located near 21.0 north, 61.0 west. It's about 235 miles northeast of the northern Leeward Islands, with a maximum sustained winds of 50 miles per hour and moving towards the northwest at 8 miles per hour. The system poses no threat to the Cayman Islands. If you need further information on the system, please check the National Hurricane Center website at www.nhc.noaa.gov. Looking at the forecast for the Cayman Islands, today expect partly cloudy skies with a 20% chance of showers, and temperatures will be in the mid-80s. Winds will be northeast at 10 to 15 knots with higher gust. Seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Forecast for tonight pretty much the same, partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of late night showers and temperatures falling to the low 70s. Winds will be northeast at 10 to 15 knots with higher gusts tonight, and seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Low tide will be this morning at 10:38, high tide this evening at a minute after 5, and a low tide again tonight at 11:39. Sunset 5:45, sunrise 6:37, and the outlook is calling for similar weather conditions through Friday morning.
Superstitch Sewing and Fabric Center was a proud sponsor of the Weather Report, your one-stop shop for all of your household items, craft items, jewelry, beads, and decorations, and much more. Call Superstitch at 949-2833 or email customer care at superstitch.com.ky.
New stock has just arrived at Superstitch. Now don't take my word for it, drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Superstitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Superstitch, 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Good morning once again. Let's take a look at traffic. I feel for you this morning as you head on down to Georgetown from the east as traffic is bumper to bumper. Expect delays as you head on down to Georgetown. Coming off of Bobby Thompson Way, traffic is steady but flowing, and steady traffic but flowing on Cool Road. Some sections moderate. Looking towards West Bay, four-way stop. Traffic is light to moderate, and flowing pretty good on Eastern Avenue and Godfrey Nixon Way. Light traffic on Owen Roberts Drive. Downtown Georgetown on Edward Street in front of the Georgetown Post Office, traffic is flowing nicely. Pretty good traffic flow on Shedden Road. That's the very latest on your traffic. Join us again at about 10 minutes after 12. We'll give you another traffic report. Have a good morning. Buckle up.
Do you ever have those days when you have to get a super early start, or you're out late and want something fresh and healthy to eat? Subway has now opened their 4th 24-hour location for you early birds and night owls. Subway at West Shore Center on 7 Mile is now open 24 hours. So now you can grab any of Subway's fresh menu items any time of the day at 4 convenient locations. West Shore Center 7 Mile, Countryside in Savannah, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers West Bay. Subway. Eat fresh.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
After a hurricane, be sure to immediately report any broken or damaged water mains to the Water Authority. Our emergency helpline is 946-HELP. That's 946-4357. The Water Authority will use all available communication channels, including local media and social media, to inform its customers when the water supply is available. For more useful hurricane preparedness tips, visit the Water Authority's website at www.waterauthority.ky or follow us on social media.
Ocean Med is open for appointments at Bayshore Mall. The only healthcare facility on island designed exclusively for women offers a wide range of radiology-based medical screening and diagnostic tests, such as mammograms and ultrasounds, with state-of-the-art technology, full OBGYN services, a complimentary healthcare coordinator, and a stunning facility equipped with calming, multi-sensory exam suites. Ocean Med is dedicated to providing competitively priced healthcare excellence to women in our community. Book your appointment today. Call 946-2326. Or visit oceanmed.ky.
Talk Today, the most listened to call-in program in Cayman, airs Monday through Friday, 12:15 till 2:30 p.m. Listeners are encouraged to call in and share their constructive thoughts and ideas on current issues concerning the Cayman Islands and beyond.
Talk Today is proudly brought to you by Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy located in Countryside Shopping Village. Savannah Pharmacy, just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
This is our new chicken cheese pop. Popcorn chicken meets fried cheese bites, breaded with the 11 herbs and spices of our secret recipe. The collision of flavors that triggers your true cravings. Escape through indulgence with a new chicken cheese pop from KFC. It's finger-licking good.
Available for a limited time at KFC Shedden Road and KFC Baytown Plaza. Dine in or drive through.
For the record with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
And welcome back to For the Record. If you're just joining us on this Wednesday morning, I'm Donna Bush in for Mr. Orrit Connor. This morning we're having a very important discussion here with attorneys at law, Dr. Steve McPhail and Mrs. Teresa Pitcairn. We're talking about constitutional changes. If you're just joining us, when we went to the break, we were talking about Section 48 of the Constitution and what that change will mean. We're going to ask Mrs. Pitcairn to discuss with us a little bit about the changes to parliamentary secretaries and the authority that the cabinet secretary will have as well.
And I should also open by saying, OC, I know you're listening. Let me just deliver your message now. There were a couple of messages, but the primary one, just in case, was that the Premier was not the only person that assisted in getting this package done. And we also need to shout out to MLA Ezard Miller and Al Suku. Okay. So want to make sure that we give kudos to all those who are involved in making this a reality. And the hope, like I said, is that we all gather around these changes and make it into something that's a reality.
Right.
So with respect to the Cabinet Secretary, I don't know if folks were aware of this, but whenever the Cabinet Secretary wanted to, suppose the Cabinet, and I'm going to make it simplified. Please. If the Cabinet Secretary who wanted to go on vacation, he really couldn't go. He had to make sure and that he attended whatever was going on at the time with respect to Cabinet. Now, under Section 48 of the Constitution, he may now, and I'll just read it, the functions conferred on the Cabinet Secretary by this section, i.e. the section that's being revised, may be exercised by the Cabinet in person or by officers that are subordinate to him or her, acting under and in accordance with his or her general special instructions. Now, previously, the Cabinet Secretary, the Cabinet Office was the office of the government, and the Cabinet Secretary, whose office shall be a public office and who shall be a person who is a Caymanian, who shall be appointed by the governor, acting after consultation with the Premier. There are certain responsibilities that the Cabinet Secretary have, which include providing frank, political and neutral advice to the governor, the Cabinet, and the Premier on matters of policy, coordinating the development and implementation of policy between departments and ministerial portfolios. So arranging for the business and keeping the minutes, etc., etc. It's an administrative function that was designed primarily for the one individual, whether it's a male or female.
Right.
But now that person has autonomy so that they can actually transfer those responsibilities to someone acting on his or her instructions. So it might seem a little minor, but it is a big deal because it frees up the Cabinet Secretary to do other things he or she is responsible for rather than spending so much time, for example, in the LA trying to get things hammered out and not having someone else. He could be doing other things that are in terms of need, and that's a priority. So that's one. And now they've added a section to Section 54 of the Constitution, which provides parliamentary secretaries. Right now, I think they perform duties akin to a councillor. It's an elected office, so it's the parliamentary secretary is still going to be an elected office, and the requirements are as stated. The parliamentary secretary shall be subject to the directions of the minister concerned. So if you have one that is responsible in health, that person would be assisting, for example, Minister Seymour at the time, right? And the parliamentary secretary shall vacate, i.e. leave his office, if he or she resigns it by writing under his or her hand, addressed to and received by the governor. So it's not really something that is addressed to the minister that they're working with. And when I saw that too, I was a little concerned to the extent that even as a courtesy, you would want to know that they apprise the minister of that kind of change, I mean, you're working with somebody, you have a relationship with someone, whether or not it's acrimonious, that person, I think, should even copy the person that is responsible for that particular ministry. But that's a personal view. If he or she ceases to be a member of parliament for any reason other than its dissolution, if he or she is required to cease to perform his or her functions as a member of parliament, if he or she is not an elected member of parliament, when it first meets after a general election, and I'll get Steve to expand a little bit on that.
Okay.
If the premier vacates his or her office and his or her appointment is revoked by the governor, acting in accordance with the advice of the premier by instrument under the public seal. Some of these are very general, and like I said, I would change it up a little bit to ensure there's less acrimony in the house when things like this happen, because I know how we behave. I'm working with you, and then the next thing I hear from the governor that we're no longer working together. That's just not right. Yeah. And the other one, with respect to when if he or she is not an elected member of parliament when it first meets the general election, and I don't know how you feel about that, Steve. One of the requirements of the new section 54A, it's an addition, and one of the requirements that they're stating is that he or she, i.e. the parliamentary secretary, if he or she is not an elected member of parliament when it first meets after a general election.
Sure, well, it means that you cannot be a parliamentary secretary until after the government is sworn in, after an election.
Right. Right. And the reason why I'm raising that now, when we start, we saw what happened in the previous election, and you had mixed. They
weren't a united.
Of two different groups of persons, and who got elected on different mandates, because many of the independents ran on a certain mandate, and the people had different views about the former PPM government, progressive. And if a decision hasn't been made, about who is going to assume that role, I just wonder how you see, our Constitution envisages political parties.
Right.
But you see the problem that we get into when you have, and I mean, I think some folks think that I'm beating up on them when I get into this subject, but I'm not. The comments that I raise is to bring more coherence to how we organize ourselves politically, so that, when we're a group, that group has a name, that group has responsibility as a group, so that the public has certain expectations and know what they can expect from the group. Similarly, internally, they're actually organized to avoid all of this drama that we have seen in our community.
Because independents are not a group. It's what it says, independents.
Yeah.
Where you can make your own decisions and you have your own minds. And our Constitution, as model of the British parliamentary system, the Westminster system, is based on political parties to form governments. If you are in the opposition, is what we call you are a government in waiting. Waiting can take over, and therefore you have shadow ministers, you have shadow secretaries, you have shadow everything. And so the first thing to be able to take over a government is you have to have collective responsibility in cabinet and to the legislative assembly. So if everybody can do their own thing and not collect responsibility to the next person, how are you going to be a government in waiting? So that's the contradiction that we have. Although we have a written constitution that says that calls for political parties, yet we have a group of independents that doesn't actually work in real life, and so forth. So let me
just stick a pin too, Steve. The other thing that I was thinking about as well with parliamentary secretaries, they have to be cognizant of what their ministers' policies are. So if you're running as an independent, and for example, your specific mandate might be education and what you want to change, and your minister, after you're now elected, is about economic change and that sort of thing, the minister's policy and directives is not the same as the parliamentary secretary. So you have to know there must be some kind of coherence and cohesion.
Sure.
Everybody got to be on the same page. This also raises the issue with how we change portfolios and responsibilities after each election.
Yes.
Are we going to have specific designed portfolios? And, whoever's running must know which one they want to be responsible for, and don't just shift it because of political, because of your own reason.
Right.
And it costs us money, the taxpayer as well. So those are some of the things that I was thinking of when we were talking about that, and wanted to raise with Steve to see what his thoughts were. We don't always get the time to talk and catch up.
Right. Right.
So following on from what you just said, it seems to me that you cannot have a manifesto, be on a platform advocating and asking people to vote for you for one thing, and then when you get into the legislature, you join up with somebody with another thing. That is not kosher, and therefore, when you do that, you should have to resign from that position, because you cannot collectively be responsible to your constituents and who you invited to vote for you on a particular issue and send you to Parliament with a particular mandate. That is contradictory to the concepts of the British parliamentary system. So let us talk about one of the big amendments to the Constitution.
The creation of the Police Service Commission,
and that is Section 58.
We can talk about that for a few minutes, and then we're going to take a break and come back and finish up with that subject. Yeah, but let's give people an idea of exactly what the Police Service Commission will be doing.
Section 58 deals with the National Security Council. Of course, Section 58, and I'll just read the opening provisions to that section. Is what it says: there shall be in and for the Cayman Islands, and this is the Constitution as it exists now. There shall be in and for the Cayman Islands a National Security Council, which shall consist of the governor as chairman, the premier, 2 other ministers appointed in writing by the governor, acting in accordance with the advice of the premier, the leader of the opposition, or his or her designee, 2 persons representative of civil society, appointed in writing by the governor, acting after consultation with the premier and the leader of the opposition, the deputy governor ex officio, the attorney general ex officio, the commissioner of police ex officio, a minister appointed under subsection 1C shall vacate his or her seat on the National Security Council if he or her office becomes vacant under section 52, or B, the governor directs in writing, acting in accordance with the advice of the premier, a person appointed under section 1E may be appointed for a period of up to 2 years and may be reappointed. Now, this is the section that we have an amendment to.
Right.
Subsection 4. It says the National Security Council shall advise the governor on matters relating to internal security, with the exception of operational and staffing matters, and the governor shall be obliged to act in accordance with the advice of the council unless he or she considers that giving effect to the advice would adversely affect Her Majesty's internal interests, whether in respect of the United Kingdom or the Cayman Islands, and where the governor has acted otherwise than in accordance with the advice of the council, he or she shall report to the council at its next meeting. Okay. Now the only amendment to that section falls into the new proposed. The proposed amendment says amends a few words, where it says, with the advice of the council, unless he or she considers that given effect to the advice. The new amendment says, Section 58 of the Constitution, National Security Council is amended in subsection 4 by substituting for the words he or she considers the words the governor is instructed by a Secretary of State. So that's the only amendment to that.
Okay.
But what it does, it brings in two new sections, Section 58A and Section 58B, which is significant.
Okay.
And which Cayman people have been talking about for a long time. So now this new 58A and 58B brings in a new provisions called the Police Service Commission, which we have been asking for
a long time,
for decades and decades and decades now.
All right, we're gonna
the powers under it as well.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the proposed Police Service Commission. We'll be right back on For the Record.
Back by popular demand for November only. It's your sale, your choice at Vamp Motors. Vamp is making it easier than ever for you to drive home a real deal, where you can choose how much you'll save on your new vehicle and whether you want to get cash back or add-on upgrades to it. Save big on the new Ford Explorer, F-150, Edge, EcoSport, and Focus with up to $5,000 off select vehicles during our November sale. Get huge savings on the Toyota RAV4, Rush, and Fortuner as well. Best of all, you decide if you'll take the full discount, get cash back, or upgrade your new ride. It's your sale, your choice, but only during November. So come by Vamp Motors on Walker's Road, where your new SUV or truck is waiting for you to drive home.
Saturday, November 30, just before Christmas. You, yes, you can be the grand prize winner of $40,000 with your Rotary Central Music Extravaganza ticket purchase of only $25. Win that grand prize of $40,000. Second prize of $4,000, 6 $1,000 prizes, and more. Yes, Saturday, November 30, the 24th Rotary Central Music Extravaganza, Royal Palms, West Bay Road from 7 p.m. Music by Sugar Daddy, C&B, Leslie Duran, and Trio Caribe. Get your golden tickets now on sale through Rotary Central members, Rotary ticket sellers, and eventpro.ky. Every ticket funds a cause. Rotary Central, 50 community projects over 33 years. Your ticket can be the winner. Your ticket, your chance, your community. Rotary, connecting the world.
As a Caymanian, it's very important to me that projects like this are thought of thoroughly before continuing.
My question is, do we need it? And I've not yet been fully convinced that we need it, nor have I been fully convinced that we don't need it. So
what guarantee do we have that these ships are going to continue to come?
Please make the right decision.
Please don't let the catchy songs overturn you. Please support the referendum. Please ensure that you are supporting sustainable tourism, not just money-making tourism.
If the project plans have changed, even though it might be insignificant on paper, it's going to be significant for the environment.
They need to release official information, official facts.
That's where I am right now. I want to know, I want more information on do we need it.
It's your vote, your future.
So make a decision based on fact.
You deserve the whole truth.
Think about something that makes you happy. Did it make you smile? We know it did, because that's what we do at Sagicor. Put smiles on our clients' faces every day. With a large range of products to cover your family, it's no wonder most locals choose Sagicor for their life insurance needs. Serving the community for over 25 years. Let us put a smile on your face. Call your Sagicor advisor today.
Imagine a Cayman where you can go out and enjoy an evening with your family and get home safe and sound because you decided to do exactly what you said you would.
Or a night out with your girlfriends to bring in the new year with plans to head to as many venues as you can.
What about a happy hour with your colleagues to celebrate without worrying about who was driving you home? Well, guess what? Your wish is my command. Take the pledge, designate a driver, or ride the Purple Ribbon bus on New Year's Eve. We want you to arrive alive, 345. This message was brought to you by Radio Cayman and the National Drug Council.
Preventing dengue is as simple as preventing mosquito bites. Use a mosquito repellent, wear protective clothing, and stay indoors during early dawn and dusk when mosquitoes are most active. Control the places around you where mosquitoes breed. Remove stagnant water in outdoor and household settings. As a weekly habit, persons should change the water in vases, clear the water in saucers under potted plants, and ensure air conditioner drip trays are free of stagnant water. Outdoor objects capable of holding water should be kept empty and preferably disposed of or put into dry storage if not used. These include open bottles and tins, watering cans, buckets, empty paint tins, and old vehicle tires. Do your part to control the spread of dengue. The dengue virus is an infectious disease transmitted through mosquito bites. Symptoms may come on as early as 4 days or as late as 3 weeks following an infection. There is no vaccine or specific medication to treat dengue. Symptoms of dengue include high fever, headache, pain behind the eyes, joint and muscle pain, and rash. If persons have any of these symptoms, they should go to the nearest health center or hospital. It is advised to drink lots of liquids and avoid medication that contains aspirin.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
And welcome back to For the Record. I'm Donna Bush in for Mr. Connor this morning. Joining me in the studio this morning to talk about constitutional changes are our attorneys at law, Mrs. Teresa Pitcairn and Dr. Steve McPhail. We're going to jump right back into the conversation. One of the major changes to the Constitution that's proposed is the creation of a police service commission. Dr. McPhail, can you tell us exactly what this means and as it relates to the National Security Council that's now in place and all the changes that are proposed, please?
Yes. Before the break, you remember we said there was only one slight change to the National Security Council in Section 58, and that was substituting a few words for other words. Mm-hmm. Well, what the new amendments to the Constitution has done is introduce two new sections, so 58. Section 58A and Section 58B. So. Section 58A envisaged that there will be now a police service commission. Mm-hmm. That is something that we have been asking for decades now, a police service commission. So finally, we're going to have the change where we're going to have a police service commission. And Section 58A, the proposed new section will say that there shall be in and for the Cayman Islands a police service commission, which shall consist of the governor as chair, 3 members experienced in matters of the police, law enforcement, the criminal law or other matters related to national security, 2 of whom shall be appointed in writing by the governor, acting in accordance with the advice of the premier, and other in accordance with the advice of the leader of the opposition, and 2 members with qualifications described in paragraph B, appointed in writing by the governor, acting after consultation with the premier and the leader of the opposition. Mm-hmm. And then it goes on to say, no person shall be qualified to be appointed as a member of the Police Service Commission if he or she is a member of or a candidate for election to the Parliament. And then it goes on to say the office of a member of the Police Service Commission other than the governor shall become vacant. That's the procedure and how people shall be appointed. Okay. But the big section is Section 58B. Right. Now, remember we had no power to discipline police officers or to hire and fire police officers when they were derelict in their duty or they didn't serve us properly. We had to just sit around and wait for the Commissioner of Police to do that on our behalf. Mm-hmm. So what the framers have done is that they have inserted Section 58B, power to appoint, etc., to offices in the police force. And this is very, very significant. I think it's one of the most significant amendments, changes that we had in our Constitution so far. It says 58B, power to make appointments to offices in the police force and to remove and to exercise disciplinary control over persons holding or acting in such offices shall vest in the governor acting in accordance with the advice of the Police Service Commission. But the governor acting in his or her discretion may act otherwise than in accordance with that advice if he or she determines that compliance with the advice would prejudice Her Majesty's service. Where the Police Service Commission advises that any person should be appointed to an office in the police force of a rank superior to Chief Inspector, the advice shall require the appointment of the National Security Council before being submitted to the governor. But the governor acting in his or her discretion may act without the approval of the National Security Council if he or she determines that to do otherwise would prejudice Her Majesty's service. Before exercising the power vested in the governor by Section 1, the governor may acting in his or her discretion refer the advice to the Police Service Commission back to the commission for reconsideration by it. The governor may make the referral described in subsection 2 only once. If the Police Service Commission, having reconsidered its original advice under subsection 3, substitutes for it different advice, subsection 3 shall apply to that different advice as it applies to the original advice. The governor acting after consultation with the Police Service Commission may by regulations published in a government notice delegate to any member of the commission or any public officer or class of public officers to such extent and subject to such conditions as may be prescribed in the regulations any of the powers vested in the governor to make appointments to offices in the police force and to remove or exercise disciplinary control over persons holding or acting in such offices, and except insofar as regulations made under this subsection otherwise provide, any power delegated to such regulations may be exercised by any person to whom it is delegated without reference to the Police Service Commission. And then it said, no member of the Police Service Commission shall participate in any proceedings of the commission which affects him or her personally. So what this section does, it gives the elected members the right to advise the governor who they think should be disciplined, who should be hired, and the governor usually on the constitutional stuff takes their advice unless it is contrary to the prejudices the interests of Her Majesty's service. So it gives the elected members now the power to say to the governor, you know, a commissioner of police is not doing his duty, or sergeant or inspector so and so is not doing his duty, and we feel that he's not in the best interest of the community, not performing the duties, and we would like him to be gone.
But if the governor thinks that he is doing his duty, he will. Well, yeah, he'll give the members that we elect the opportunity to, say, for example, provide reasons why they believe, and obviously they would have done that in the first place. Yes. But they get an opportunity again to revisit the topic. Yes. But ultimately, it's the governor, and can we underscore, he's not elected because remember he represents Her Majesty's interest. If not, so in as much as this introduces a level of inclusion with members that are elected, ultimate authority rests with the governor, who is reflecting Her Majesty's interest. So,
but it would have to be something really grave that the governor would not take the advice of the elected members who are in the commission. It would have to be something really grave, and I don't know of any situation since I have been here for a long time where the governor refused to accept their advice when giving it to him or her. And so it seems to me that it would have to be something really grave that would prejudice Her Majesty's service. So it seems to me now that we have interest in seeing who is appointed and who is removed from the police force. We have an interest now in that. We have a say in that. That is the first step into the door. that we have, and that we ought to exercise very cautiously, and we ought to exercise very prudently, and that is a great gift that we have gotten now in
Dr.
this
McPhail?
colonial system that says that the colonial office and that the governor runs everything.
We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back to that point that you're making. We'll be back with more For the Record in just a few minutes.
I'm starting my shopping early this year. What you want for Christmas?
All I really want for Christmas is for my packages to arrive on time.
Plan ahead to get your shipments into Seaboard Marine on time and avoid the holiday rush. Check out their great less-than-container shipment rates. Seaboard saves you time, money, and convenience with consolidation and repacking options available. Take a load off Santa this holiday season. Shop, ship, and save on your small packages with Seaboard Marine. Give us a call at 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com/grand-cayman for quotes or additional details.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
Starting November 1st to December 31st, you can earn double points every time you use your Fidelity credit or prepaid cards. That's not all. When you use your card on Black Friday or Cyber Monday, Fidelity's giving you triple points. That means you have a whole weekend to rack up 3 times the points for travel, merchandise, and more. And with added protection of instant text alerts, 90-day purchase protection, and chip and PIN technology, you can shop with confidence. Fidelity. We're good for you.
Did you know that CPR Cayman is now a registered non-profit organization? The government is spending a lot of money on their campaign, so we need your help to get the word out to as many people as we can. You can make a donation via our website cprcayman.com or call us at 938-5876. This is our first people's initiated referendum for a decision that will affect everyone's future. It's your vote, your future. So make a decision based on fact. You deserve the whole truth.
Preventing dengue is as simple as preventing mosquito bites. Use a mosquito repellent, wear protective clothing, and stay indoors during early dawn and dusk when mosquitoes are most active. Control the places around you where mosquitoes breed. Remove stagnant water in outdoor and household settings. As a weekly habit, persons should change the water in vases, clear the water in saucers under potted plants, and ensure air conditioner drip trays are free of stagnant water. Outdoor objects capable of holding water should be kept empty and preferably disposed of or put into dry storage if not used. These include open bottles and tins, watering cans, buckets, empty paint tins, and old vehicle tires. Do your part to control the spread of dengue. The dengue virus is an infectious disease transmitted through mosquito bites. Symptoms may come on as early as 4 days or as late as 3 weeks following an infection. There is no vaccine or specific medication to treat dengue. Symptoms of dengue include high fever, headache, pain behind the eyes, joint and muscle pain, and rash. If persons have any of these symptoms, they should go to the nearest health center or hospital. It is advised to drink lots of liquids and avoid medication that contains aspirin.
For the Record with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the Record with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Donna Bush. Joining me in studio this morning to talk about the all-important changes to our Constitution, our attorneys at law, Dr. Steve McPhail and Mrs. Teresa Pitcairn. We briefly talked about and gave an overview of the newly proposed police created Police Service Commission. Now we're going to move on to Section 81 of the Constitution. But before we do that, we do have a caller on the air. Caller, welcome to For the Record. Do you have a question for either one of our guests this morning, or do you have a comment to make?
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Good been speaking around here. I have a comment. I don't want to change the topic, but definitely, we seem 2 minutes to be brief, right? Like, talking about UK man politics recently, right? The 2007 election with the horse raid, with those negotiations, right? And it always declined, right? And the government, they inform them to get integrated and unite, right? I'm going to get that process, right? Where I come from. And independence, they can't run no country. You look at the US, right? Democrats, the Republicans, Jamaica, JLP, PNP. You see where I come from? So they everybody have their own different mechanism of thoughts, and thought process, and how they operate. You see where I come from? And let me finish off for 1 more minute. The Brexit dilemma, right? There's an albatross going on up there, right? Constant worrisome, burning, right? And you talk about independence, okay, man? Do you want to imagine people from there to run for office here? You see where I come from? That's the overseas territory, that whole annexation. And lastly, up north now with Donald Trump, with implications and incrimination charges, the impeachment going on. You know, the Ukraine fiasco. So, all I say now, okay, man, now, New Year's coming, just have inquest about independence. Ain't not paranoid about it. We prepare for hurricane season, the 1st of June, the end of November. Show you the brief impact. Let's have good conversations about that. Okay? And sort of distract the topic. have a good day.
Caller, thank you for those comments. And no distraction at all. I'm sure that our guest, Mrs. Pitcairn or Dr. Steve, will talk a little bit about it for you. He was just basically pointing out the parties and how countries who have parties and independence have gone independent, how things have not gone well. Then he referred to, of course, North America and Trump.
The truth, though, and I've said it before and I'm going to say it again, Donna, is that human beings are flawed. Some of us more flawed than others. And democracy, as we know it today, has been one of the better alternatives in how we organize society. It gives you some say. It's not a perfect model. Mm-hmm. We know that when we go to the courts, for example, they're comprised of flawed individuals as well. And the decisions that they make from time to time are not necessarily in the best interest of community. What we see now, for example, in the United States is that Mr. Trump has been able to populate the judiciary with folks that are more conservative, with the hope that they too can make decisions that are at least middle of the road. Mm-hmm. But, you know, if you're more progressive, if you're more a conservative person, the sort of policies that you will make as a judge or rulings that you will make as a judge will be more Republican in nature rather than like the Democrats. So what we have now is a system that gives us some say, and it is for us as the voters to use that responsibly for the best interest of community. To do that, though, requires education. Mm-hmm. And as I always say, an education is not passing a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or a PhD. An education is the ability to think, you know, and that is something that we have to, you got to be able to think. You got to get past the fear of speaking your truth, becoming uncomfortable, you know, and making people realize that you have a voice as well. So for us to say and stick around and keep repeating that we don't want to be independent, when it comes to the cost of independence, the economic cost, I concede to that. But in terms of leadership and being independent, I have no problems with that at all, because you're still going to have flawed people as you have globally in control.
Well, you know, people always using Jamaica as a bad example for independence. And, you know, I don't know how many of them understands the colonial history of Jamaica. I think what they should do, they should go back and look at the colonial history of Jamaica. Jamaica had a terrible colonial history. one of the most wicked slave histories in the world. When Jamaica became independent, nearly 90% of Jamaica was illiterate and poor and illiterate, and the British sacked the country before they left. Even the lands that they owned with the army at Park Camp, Jamaica had to go to the Privy Council to fight to get those lands vested in Jamaica, because the British said those lands belong to them. So when you leave a country with unprepared, where people are uneducated, they have no resources, and then after independence, what they did to them, like what they did to Haiti, when Haiti got their independence, they still paying the price for that. They're still paying the price for France for all the properties that they took from them. But after they got independence and they found their resources, who you think set the price for the resources? The people who bought them, the people who bought the bauxite, the people who bought the bananas, they set the price. And when you were buying the tractors from them, they set the price for the tractors too. And so there was not a pro quid quo, because Jamaica was always not prepared for economically and socially and to go in independence. They were prepared politically because they had the kind of leadership, they had the education, but they did not have the economic support from the people who had them subjugated for 300 years, working them for nothing. The most wicked slave history. That's the reason why Jamaica has such violence in its society now.
Exactly.
It comes out of this slave history,
exactly.
and out of the Stockholm syndrome, because they say, they like master, like servant, like master.
I remember.
And
that is, and I hear it here all the time. Mm-hmm. And when I hear it, I just shake my head. And I says, there it goes again. You only look at what you see now. You don't have a context of reference to understand what led to the society being the way it is today. It didn't just happen just so.
Right.
I mean, the leaders also, after independence, were quote-unquote mulatto folks whose interests until Michael Manley was diametrically opposed from what they wanted and what the people needed. Having a community filled with 95% of illiteracy, and folks dealing with racism and how it actually impacted them. You can't have, on the one hand, your leaders having a view, and then the mass majority of your people having another cultural, economic, and social experience. This is why I keep talking about the need for communication. Mm-hmm. You can't lead without knowing what your people need.
Right.
So, and while I will always say that historically in Cayman, we have done very well economically, but we as a people have suffered dramatically as a community and culturally, because the social content has not been addressed as it ought to have been. We keep talking about education. We keep talking about jobs. Look at how much our community has grown, Donna, and you still have people talking about they go to university, they get an education, they come back, and the bar is raised again. They go away, they get the experience, and they come back, the bar is raised again. And the only people who suffer from that are locals, especially if you're Caymanian. And it used to be where folks would embrace white, quote-unquote, white Caymanians, but today that brush is brushed right across, whether you're white, you're brown, or clearly black. So we have to be honest with ourselves about these issues.
And why is it that when we talk about that examples, why don't we use Canada, New Zealand, Australia, in all of those other places? Why we keep using Jamaica?
I think
go look at the history of Jamaica, and then come back and then have a conversation with us about it.
I think though, and I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. I mean, we are similar in nature. We're in the same region. You talk about population size. I think this is why a lot of people, and because we were governed by Jamaica at one time, it's safe for people to just talk about them. I mean, that's just how I've gotten it from people on the outside. But do you think if our 12 members, and we're going to hold the answer to this question, if our 12 members had went down and decided to go independent when Jamaica did, how do you think our story would have differed today? And we're going to tackle that when we come back after this break. Please stay with us.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only two species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news.
Access to information.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
A special small business edition of Saturday Night Live in Georgetown will take place over the Cayman Thanksgiving weekend, November 30th on Cardinal Avenue from 5 p.m. to midnight. The event, which is part of the Georgetown Revitalization Initiative, is being hosted in collaboration with the Cayman Islands Small Business Association and Cayman Thanksgiving. Israel says it has hit dozens of targets in Syria belonging to the government and allied Iranian forces. The Israeli military says the wide-scale strikes responded to rockets fired by an Iranian unit into Israel. Syria says 2 civilians died and that Syrian air defenses shot down most of the missiles over Damascus. Other reports say the death toll was higher. A former employee of the UK's Hong Kong consulate has told the BBC that he was tortured in China and accused of inciting political unrest in the city. Simon Cheng, a Hong Kong citizen who worked for the UK government for almost 2 years, was detained for 15 days on a trip to mainland China in August. He told BBC he was shackled, blindfolded, and hooded. The UK government sources say they believe his claims of being beaten and forced to sign confessions. Those are your latest headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
And welcome back to For the Record. If you're just joining us, I'm Donna Bush in this morning, having a discussion about constitutional changes with attorneys at law, Mrs. Teresa Pitcairn and Dr. Steve McPhail. We do have one caller on the air. Thank you for calling For the Record. Do you have a question for our guest this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Thank you, and good morning to your guest. My question is a little bit backwards as to where you had reached, but there was a point that was being made and I didn't get it, so please forgive me. It was when you were talking about the changes Lady T, I heard that laugh about the police. So please tell me now, will the police be still reporting directly to the governor, or is there an intermediate there?
Dr. Steve?
I didn't get that.
Will the police still be reporting to the governor, or will there be an intermediary person?
The governor would be the governor is still overall in charge of the police, but there's a new amendment to the Constitution, a new addition to the Constitution that talks about a police service commission. That the elected members will have a say in who's hired and who is fired from now on when these provisions are put into the Constitution.
And just bear with me, would that also include all of their human resources matters?
Everything.
Okay. All right. And I would like to make a comment on something that was said before you went to the break. And you can ask Lady T to show you her phone. People keep using Jamaica as an example of failure.
A bad example they make.
Well, I wish they would stop doing it.
Yes.
I wish they would pick another place.
Pick New Zealand. Pick Australia. Pick Canada.
Pick anywhere. Because people should look at Jamaica, and despite their economic failure, because that's the only place they fail as far as I'm concerned, they're still better off than us. At least when you go there, they are the ones who are on the jobs. And despite their economic downfall, their people, that is still their most precious commodity. That's who they invest in. Now, as far as the violence and stuff is concerned, that is everywhere. Why we know about it in Jamaica is because they don't hide it. But it's happening everywhere. Everywhere in the Caribbean, you have it. But because they're so dependent on tourism, they choose to hide it. Jamaica publish theirs, but they protect their tourists also. Because anytime there's a rise in crime, you see the JDF out there. Let me just say this. I've been to Jamaica many times, more times than I could count. I've never once been robbed there. I've never once felt threatened there. Yet I've been robbed right here in Cayman, robbed in America, and robbed in a Central American country. And they're all supposed to be better off than Jamaica. So when they want to talk about the downfalls of anywhere, please read your history, know your history, become acquainted with your history, find somewhere else to use as an example. That's my 10 cents worth for today. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, caller, for those comments. Would anyone like to respond to the caller?
Well, the caller is right. I'm a student of Jamaican history. Jamaica has a colorful history, and people who do not understand the colonial history usually will refer to Jamaica. I think what people need to do is they need to go and do their research. They need to go to the archives. They need to read about countries, and instead of reading about what other people tell them in the neighbor, what the neighbors say, they ought to read the slave history of Jamaica. They ought to read that. They ought to read not only the slave history. They have to read the history of caste and class in Jamaica, and see how Jamaica was set up as a society. They're lucky. They're lucky that they were able to get this far since 1962. Without a complete collapse like what happened to Haiti. Haiti is still paying the price for their audacity to defeat the French, defeat Napoleon in the Caribbean. They're still paying for that. But they become the first black independent nation in the world. They were never forgiven for that. And so when you have a like I say, when you rape a country, when you go there and you control a country and then you control the resources and then you leave it with the people with illiterate can't function. That's what happens. It takes time. It takes a lot of time to work yourself out of that. In Cayman, we were a little different from that. We were different people altogether. We didn't have the keen history. The banana history. What we had was a cotton history, where people here were picking cotton and on a cotton plantation, and because we depended upon the sea, our seamen and the master, who the cotton was belonged to, had to transport it to some place to sell it, and so we were almost equal with him, because when he was sleeping in the cabin, we were at the wheel. Directing the ship to New York and to Boston and to all of those places up to Norway and Denmark. The black men was the ship helm, and when they were catching turtles for sale, the black men was there too. The people were there too, helping them. So we became like brothers. They had to depend on each other to survive in this island that time forgot, that nobody wanted. So we have a different history. We have a history of rugged individualism, hard work and sacrifice, and so we were quite different. So when the time came for us in 1962, when Jamaica was becoming independent, and the governor came down and told us that, gave us the option that we could have had full internal self-government immediately, because remember now, we were not a colonial country. We had no colonial relationship with the Great Britain. Or the Great Britain, as it was called in those days. We were administered by Jamaica as if we were a part of Jamaica. That's what the law said. And therefore, Jamaica was the place that was responsible for us when they were going into independence. So they came down and they said, listen, we are going into independence, and we will give you an internal self-government constitution immediately. But there are two things that you need to have in place that you don't have, and that's external affairs and security army. And we will provide that for you, those two things for you, for £10,000 a year, I think it was. And the legislature decided, they debated the matter, and decided whether or not they were going to take the internal self-government that Jamaica was handing to us immediately, or there was an alternative. The governor said if we didn't want that, we could go and become a crown colony, directly ruled from United Kingdom. Mm-hmm. And of course, you know, the debates went on, and at the end of the debates, the great Roy McTaggart, who was the great man at the time, a great orator, great speaker, very fluid, and he put the matter this way. He says, "There's not going to be black or white Jamaica, or there's not going to be any gray ball in between. Either we choose one or the other." And one of the reasons why we made the choice that we did was our economic survival, because we said that we wanted to have complete controls over our economic system, because the rumor had been passed that if we got full internal self-government with Jamaica, and Jamaica was going to provide us with security and external affairs, that they were going to have some say in our economy. And Dr. Roy put it this way to the people, whether this was right or wrong. He said, if you have 5 men going with Southwell, National Bulk, Jamaica is going to want to have 3 of them for Jamaicans. Mm. And that went to the heart of the Caymanian people's existence. And they said, no way, absolutely, we don't want that to happen. Yes. And they called the shots that day. And the referendum was held immediately that day. All who wants to go with Jamaica, all who wants to have full internal self-government with Jamaica giving us security and external affairs, hold up their hands or clap. And all who wants to become a crown colony, and the one who had the loudest clap carried the day. Mm-hmm. And we went to the United Kingdom along with the Jamaica and the other Caribbean countries, and we got our constitution that never came into force until 10 years later, because we were supposed to have a constitution in 1962. 1965 it didn't come into force. It didn't come into force until 1972. Mm-hmm. And we then became a crown colony, directly ruled from Britain with constitutional ties to the United Kingdom that we never had from 1655 when Penn and Venables secured Cayman Islands and Jamaica for the crown. That's we right. have never had any correspondence with them. In fact, 1831 we took our own independence.
I was going to say that.
At Pedro St. James. Yeah. When we wrote to Jamaica and said, listen, we had an excursion in our country by Cuba and other places coming here. We want to form a militia to protect ourselves. We want you to we want to extend. We want to raise taxes to pay for that, and we want to extend the powers of the court. And the governor said, you can't do that. And we came back, and we had meetings on the 5th of December at Pedro St. James, and on the 10th of December we had our election, and we had a legislature, 2 houses, upper house and lower house. We took our independence, and that lasted until 1863, when they passed the Cayman Act in the United Kingdom, driving us under the legislature of Jamaica, where it gave the Jamaica legislature the power to make laws for the peace, order, and good governance of Cayman. But from 1831, we were an independent country running our own affairs.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
Run our own affairs. That's why people should go and start talking about.
Yeah. So that's so. I mean, he really echoed my thoughts as he spoke. Mm-hmm. We knew that we could do this. We knew we had the ability to take responsibility for ourselves. That's one thing. The other thing that I was going to comment on or reiterate is economics has been something in terms of our focal point. And as I said earlier in the show, we have done well building our economy. Mm-hmm. And it's always been one of those things in the back of our mind to make sure we got that buoyant and so on. But where we have failed miserably is actually attending to the social issues. Building prisons and so on, that's not the answer for the things that we have going on now. And a comment that I was also going to make was with respect to Trevor Monroe's text on the politics of constitutional decolonization in Jamaica. I see the text is so tattered now because I maintain this one and a couple of others as my Bibles when it comes to understanding us and how we think.
Right.
One of the things that Trevor said, and what he does, he prepares a setting. He provides the whole history of the background of slavery and the community in Jamaica. And then he talks about what he calls the emergent pattern of the country, the emergent pattern of the Constitution, the emergent pattern of behaviors in leadership, and the behavior of 90% of folks that were really not really benefiting from this thing called independence, because independence does not mean a continuation of economic success.
No.
This is why we have to think long. I mean, Ezra talks about MLA Ezra, I always call him McLean and the other one Miller, Arden Miller, God forbid. But they know I love them both.
Yes.
Yeah. But so we have to be prepared if this is something that we believe in. And if I may, our school children must know this history. They must know that they have something that they can believe in that is positive and representative of who we are. Folks that attended a meeting recently dealing with the port were talking about the way in which certain people conveyed certain issues to the people in attendance. And some folks are saying that they were treated like children, as if they didn't have any gray cells that were operational. So in this day and age, 2019, you have folks coming here telling you stuff, and you actually know more than they do about the issue. And we sit down and we're okay with that. We are okay with that.
Yeah.
So,
We're going to take a break and come back and continue our conversation here. And for the record, again, if you'd like to jump in on the conversation, you can give us a call toll free at 1-800-534-8255 or by calling direct numbers 949-8037 or 949-6990. We'll be right back with
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
This referendum is bigger than the port itself. This is going to teach our people that, yes, we can make decisions. We can stop roads from being closed. We can stop markets from being developed. We can get jobs. We can be trained. Never again will we be second-class citizens in our own country begging at the doors of the NAU. I implore you to come out and vote in this referendum. We can change our circumstances forever.
Saturday, November 30, just before Christmas. You can be the grand prize winner of $40,000 with your Rotary Central Music Extravaganza ticket purchase of only $25. Win that grand prize of $40,000. Second prize of $4,000, 6 $1,000 prizes, and more. Yes, Saturday, November 30, the 24th Rotary Central Music Extravaganza, Royal Palms, West Bay Road from 7 p.m. Music by Sugar Daddy, C&B, Leslie Duran, and Trio Caribe. Get your golden tickets now on sale through Rotary Central members, Rotary ticket sellers, and eventpro.ky. Every ticket funds a cause. Rotary Central, 50 community projects over 33 years. Your ticket can be the winner. Your ticket, your chance, your community. Rotary, connecting the world.
Back by popular demand for November only. It's your sale, your choice at Vamp Motors. Vamp is making it easier than ever for you to drive home a real deal, where you can choose how much you'll save on your new vehicle and whether you want to get cash back or add-on upgrades to it. Save big on the new Ford Explorer, F-150, Edge, EcoSport, and Focus with up to $5,000 off select vehicles during our November sale. Get huge savings on the Toyota RAV4, Rush, and Fortuner as well. Best of all, you decide if you'll take the full discount, get cash back, or upgrade your new ride. It's your sale, your choice, but only during November. So come by Vamp Motors on Walker's Road, where your new SUV or truck is waiting for you to drive home.
This holiday, Logic is helping you mix and match. So whether it's reggae jingle bells or wearing plaid with Santa sweaters, anything goes. It's all about the freedom to choose, like mixing and matching your Logic services. The more you spend, the more you save. Plus, we're doubling our internet speeds, which means you're getting the island's fastest internet at up to 30% less than the competition. It's like Christmas all year round. Visit logic.ky to learn more. Terms and conditions apply.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
And welcome back to For the Record. Again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about constitutional changes that are being proposed. Currently, I have attorneys at law in studio with me. They are Dr. Steve McPhail and Mrs. Teresa Pitcairn. So we want to talk about another section of the Constitution. That's Section 81 of the Constitution, which removes His Excellency Governor's right to address Parliament. If we could talk about that for a few minutes, just so that folks can understand exactly what that means, what those proposed changes mean.
Well, it's the governor's reserve powers. That's what Section 81. Now, the governor has reserve powers on the present Constitution, the 2009 Constitution, and I will read that for your listeners. It says, if the governor considers that the enactment of legislation is necessary or desirable with respect to or in the interest of any matter for which he or she is responsible under Section 55, but after consultation with the Premier, it appears to the governor that the cabinet is unwilling to support the introduction into the Legislative Assembly of a bill for the purpose of that assembly, it is unlikely to pass a bill introduced into it for the purpose. The governor may, with the prior approval of the Secretary of State, cause a bill for the purpose to be published in a government notice, and may, notwithstanding that the bill has not been passed by the Legislative Assembly, assent to it on behalf of Her Majesty, but the bill shall be so published for at least 21 days prior to assent, unless the governor certifies by writing under his or her hand that the matter is too urgent to permit such delay in giving assent, and so inform the Secretary of State.
In simple terms, what does that mean?
So in simple terms, what that means, for the governor has all these portfolios: security, police, civil servants, internal, external affairs.
Yes, sir.
Those are his portfolios that I've said before. They are exercised by his officers, the deputy governor, the financial, the attorney general, so forth. If the governor wants a law to be passed on any of those subjects that he has, and he gives the law to the cabinet or the ministers and say, I want you to go down to the Legislative Assembly to pass this law, they refuse to do so. The governor under this section could go down to the Legislative Assembly and do it himself, address them and pass himself. For example, the governor got up one morning and say, 30,000 people on work permits, I am going to pass a bill to give them all Caymanian status. The governor could do that under Section 81.
As it currently is?
As it currently is.
Okay.
Section 81 has been amended. The governor's right to address the parliament, and it says, if the governor considers that the enactment of legislation as necessary or desirable with respect to or in the interest of any matter for which he or she is responsible under Section 55(1). But after consultation with the Premier, it appears to the Governor that the Cabinet is unwilling to support the introduction into the Parliament of a bill for that purpose, or that the Parliament is unlikely to pass a bill introduced into it for that purpose. The Governor shall be entitled with the prior approval of the Secretary of State to address the Parliament. Now he has to go to the Secretary of State to get that accent. He has to get approval from them. He just can't go down and do it. But it would be perhaps better to have talk about the amendment before that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the amendment to Section 80, because that is the killer section.
The killer
That
section,
is where, under the present Constitution, the Governor has the right to disallow laws. The legislature goes and pass a law to say, we are going to protect Caymanians for so-and-so, whatever they want to do. The Governor could disallow it. The Governor could say, I'm not going to sign that law, that law into, that bill into law.
Mm-hmm.
This is what the present Constitution says, Section 80. Any law assented to by the Governor may be disallowed by Her Majesty through a Secretary of State, that no law shall be disallowed until the expiration of a reasonable period of time notified by the Secretary of State to the Governor with an explanation of the difficulties perceived by the Secretary of State, and the Governor shall forthwith advise the Speaker of that period and those difficulties in order to give the Legislative Assembly an opportunity to reconsider the law in question. Whenever any law has been disallowed by Her Majesty, the Governor shall cause notice of such disallowance to be published by the government notice, and the law shall be annulled with effect from the date of such publication. Section 16(1) of the Interpretation Act 1978 shall apply to the amendment of any law under this section as it applies to the repeal of an Act of Parliament, save that any enactment repealed or amended by or in pursuance of that law shall have effect as from the date of the annulment, as if that law had been made.
So
in other words,
so that section has now been revoked from
Right.
the
that section is now revoked.
Yeah.
They can't do that to us now. For instance, they could go and say, for instance, what law is very controversial right now? The conservation law.
Or marriage.
Or marriage. They could go and repeal, they could go and say, we're going to disallow the marriage law. And we could not do anything about it. That law, that section is revoked now. They can't do that to us now. And the governor can't go down to the Legislative Assembly and pass his own law now, as he did before.
Okay.
So,
of course, that's all pending the support that's needed to
that's all pending
to
the
make this
support.
all
That's
in
all pending
effect.
the support.
I just looked at an article in the Compass while you were speaking, and they're now saying that lawmakers to meet on constitutional changes today.
Okay.
So, yeah. The thing, too, is, what we see is the relationship between Cayman and the UK, it may have its challenges,
Right.
but you see that there's a give on both ends.
Sure.
At least this is what is being communicated to me when I review these changes.
Right. Yeah, there's compromise, certainly. Yeah. All right, well, we're going to take another break here on For the Record. When we come back, we'll be going into our last segment. Of course, if you can jump in on the conversation by giving us a call toll free at 1-800-534-8255 or calling us directly on 949-8037 or 949-6990. Again, we're talking about proposed changes to the Constitution, which we've just learned will be discussed in the Legislative Assembly today by our elected officials. And we will be back with more For the Record in just a few minutes. Please stay with us.
Starting November 1st to December 31st, you can earn double points every time you use your Fidelity credit or prepaid cards. That's not all. When you use your card on Black Friday or Cyber Monday, Fidelity's giving you triple points. That means you have a whole weekend to rack up 3 times the points for travel, merchandise, and more. And with added protection of instant text alerts, 90-day purchase protection, and chip and PIN technology, you can shop with confidence. Fidelity. We're good for you.
I'm starting my shopping early this year. What you want for Christmas?
All I really want for Christmas is for my packages to arrive on time.
Plan ahead to get your shipments into Seaboard Marine on time and avoid the holiday rush. Check out their great less-than-container shipment rates. Seaboard saves you time, money, and convenience with consolidation and repacking options available. Take a load off Santa this holiday season. Shop, ship, and save on your small packages with Seaboard Marine. Give us a call at 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com/grand-cayman for quotes or additional details.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Back by popular demand for November only. It's your sale, your choice at Vamp Motors. Vamp is making it easier than ever for you to drive home a real deal, where you can choose how much you'll save on your new vehicle and whether you want to get cash back or add-on upgrades to it. Save big on the new Ford Explorer, F-150, Edge, EcoSport, and Focus with up to $5,000 off select vehicles during our November sale. Get huge savings on the Toyota RAV4, Rush, and Fortuner as well. Best of all, you decide if you'll take the full discount, get cash back, or upgrade your new ride. It's your sale, your choice, but only during November. So come by Vamp Motors on Walker's Road, where your new SUV or truck is waiting for you to drive home.
ValueMed Pharmacy is your community care partner for health and wellness needs. We offer convenient prescription processing at the counter and online at value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com, with pickup available at the Walkers Road or Boddentown location. We also accept transfer prescriptions from other pharmacies. More than just a pharmacy, shop ValueMed for personal care and beauty products from trusted brands, perfume and gift sets, Hallmark and greeting cards, baby clothes, footwear, handbags, swimwear, home decor, toys, school supplies, and stationery. And home convalescence aids like wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, canes, and hospital beds. With 2 locations to serve you, Walkers Road in Georgetown and in Evron Plaza, Boddentown. Visit ValueMed, more than just a pharmacy.
Support our port, support our tourism.
Did you know government agreed very early on that the piers would be built on pilings in deeper water to minimize the environmental footprint? Marine life will still be able to move freely underneath them, and coral relocation remains part of the plan.
Looking forward, looking bright.
Learn more and spread the word.
Support our port, support our tourism.
Do you know any young person between the age of 10 and 25 with proven success in the areas of business, academics, career, sports, culture, or community service? Here's your chance to recognize their achievements by nominating them for the Proud of Them Awards. To play your part in honoring our community's most extraordinary youth, simply visit www.proudofthem.com or www.education.gov.ky to find the nomination instructions and details. Nominations are open now and close on November 20th. Join us in inspiring our youth to reach higher. Brought to you by the Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture, and Lands.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
And welcome back to For the Record. If you're just joining us in our last 2 segments here, we have attorneys at law, Dr. Steve McPhail and Mrs. Teresa Pitcairn in studio with us discussing proposed changes to our Constitution. We're coming back and we're going to be talking about Section 77, Section 84, and
126
and
as
126 as well. So,
yeah. So I need. It's 2 of my friends sent me a text. Says, Teresa, your blood pressure, try to make that go up. Bontowners, they're the hardest. But when Steve spoke just now about the revocation of Section 80, where the governor's powers and stuff is concerned, I think we ought to have mentioned Section 126, the inclusion of Section 176 in the Constitution as well, which I am really, really, really pleased about, because I think for over a year I have been saying, and this is not to suggest that that's what created this in the Constitution, but I've always been saying that since the governor has the power to introduce order of council and bills like that, at least some provision ought to be in the Constitution which brings some balance to that. You know, let us know the areas of law that the UK is going to want to have a say in, and so that we don't have things thrown on us and we're not prepared. So what Section 126 does in revoking Section 80, it provides that the governor, and I'll read it, any provision of a draft act of the Parliament of the United Kingdom, this is what the changes are going to reflect.
Okay.
Yes, so any provisions of a draft act of Parliament of the United Kingdom where it should apply to the Cayman Islands directly, or where there's an order in council which should be made extending to the Cayman Islands from an act of Parliament in the United Kingdom, this now must be brought to the attention of Cabinet so that they can review it. At least we now know, so that it gives us some notice, whether we like it or not, to actually review it, and the possibility of having some say in whether or not it is something that is good for the Cayman Islands, and if it is good, we can set out our reasons why. The United Kingdom may not like it or may not even accept it, but it gives us some input. So I'm particularly pleased about that provision. Yeah.
Okay.
So I had to jump in and, beat up my chest a little bit.
All right. So Section 77, what does that outline, Dr. McPhail?
It's the introduction of bills into the Legislative Assembly. That's what Section 77 deals with. Bills now, they presently, it says subsection, subject to this Constitution and standing orders, any member may introduce any bill or propose any motion for debate in or may preserve any position to the Legislative Assembly and petition to the Legislative Assembly, and the same shall be debated and disposed of in accordance to standing orders. And then standing orders shall require that, except in the case of emergency, every bill introduced by the government shall be published at least 21 days before the commencement of the meetings in which it is scheduled. So, and goes on to say, so what Section 77, does, it amends Section 7, the new proposals amend Section 77, and it reads, Section 77 of the Constitution introduced of bills is amended by substituting for the subsection to the following subsection. Every bill shall be published in a government notice, and the Parliament shall not proceed upon any bill until the expiration of 28 days after the date on which the bill was so published, unless the Premier certifies by writing under his or her hand that consideration of the bill is too urgent to permit such a delay.
Okay.
And then Section 77 of the Constitution is amended by the addition of the following new subsection under Section 3. Except with the consent of the governor acting in his or her discretions, signed by the Premier, the Parliament shall not proceed upon any bill, including any amendment to a bill that, in the opinion of the governor acting in his or her discretion, signed as aforesaid, concern matters of which the governor is responsible under Section 55, or a matter that may by law is the responsibility of the governor in the event of a dispute concerning whether a matter falls within the scope of Section 55. The Premier may refer the question to a Secretary of State, which decides on the matter shall be final. So if the legislature try to bring a bill that is controversial, that encroaches on the governor's prerogative powers, governor's powers, the responsibility, that has to be referred to the Secretary of State now for it to be final. And they have substituted now 28 days for a bill to come before the Legislative Assembly to be debated instead of 21.
Okay.
They extended the time for a bill
by a week. Okay. Secretary of State, is that a change in title as well?
No, the Secretary of State is the person who is responsible for the overseas territories, the Secretary of State in United Kingdom, in Westminster, and then and then amendment, and then section 71 is the amendment to the standing orders. That is not such a big amendment. It says now, section 7 of the Constitution, standing orders and committees is amended in subsection 1 by omitting the punctuation and words, but no such standing orders or amendment or revocation of them shall have effect unless they have been approved by the governor. So the governor has no power now to longer approve standing orders. That is the remit of the Legislative Assembly of Parliament. And now, the new thing now, I just wondered, by substituting the word Parliament for Legislative Assembly, I wonder now if the Parliament is going to be autonomous. Because as it is now, Parliament comes under the Deputy Governor's portfolio. The Legislative Assembly for emoluments, for all the things that it needs. And it seems to me now that since it's a Parliament, it should have its own responsibility, and the Speaker of the House should be responsible for that body, as if it was independent of the other bodies of the government. It should not come under. Can you imagine you were sitting in Parliament, but the Deputy Governor who sits in Parliament is controls the Parliament? That does not work.
But as it stands, even with these changes here, if that change that you're talking about isn't made, what does that do to the proposed changes?
Well, it should be made, but that would be only an administrative change. That would not have to be a constitutional change.
But it's useful to put it in.
But they should have put it in.
Yeah.
And then the last change to the Constitution now is section I think it's what's it, section 24?
84?
Yes.
All right. While we look over that, we're going to take a break.
124.
We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll have a little bit more time. So stay with us. We'll be right back with more For the Record.
Saturday, November 30, just before Christmas. You, yes, you can be the grand prize winner of $40,000 with your Rotary Central Music Extravaganza ticket purchase of only $25. Win that grand prize of $40,000. Second prize of $4,000, 6 $1,000 prizes, and more. Yes, Saturday, November 30, the 24th Rotary Central Music Extravaganza, Royal Palms, West Bay Road from 7 p.m. Music by Sugar Daddy, C&B, Leslie Duran, and Trio Caribe. Get your golden tickets now on sale through Rotary Central members, Rotary ticket sellers, and eventpro.ky. Every ticket funds a cause. Rotary Central, 50 community projects over 33 years. Your ticket can be the winner. Your ticket, your chance, your community. Rotary, connecting the world.
Starting November 1st to December 31st, you can earn double points every time you use your Fidelity credit or prepaid cards. That's not all. When you use your card on Black Friday or Cyber Monday, Fidelity's giving you triple points. That means you have a whole weekend to rack up 3 times the points for travel, merchandise, and more. And with added protection of instant text alerts, 90-day purchase protection, and chip and PIN technology, you can shop with confidence. Fidelity. We're good for you.
The Cayman Islands National Museum invites you to join them for their 29th anniversary and Christmas Bazaar celebrations, Saturday 23rd November from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. at the National Museum on the waterfront. Come join in on their festivities, visit their talented traditional artisans and vendors, check out new enhancements to the Cayman Airways exhibition, and get your early Christmas shopping done. Admission is free for all. Enjoy a day of wholesome family celebrations at the Cayman Islands National Museum, Saturday, November 23rd.
Always ensure that food preparation utensils are washed with a strong detergent and rinsed in hot water in the event that they have made contact with flood water. Boil silverware for 10 minutes and immerse glass, porcelain, china, and plastic items in a solution of hot water and 10% chlorine bleach before use. For more post-hurricane food safety tips, visit DEH website at deh.gov.ky.
Do you know any young person between the age of 10 and 25 with proven success in the areas of business, academics, career, sports, culture, or community service? Here's your chance to recognize their achievements by nominating them for the Proud of Them Awards. To play your part in honoring our community's most extraordinary youth, simply visit www.proudofthem.com or www.education.gov.ky to find the nomination instructions and details. Nominations are open now and close on November 20th. Join us in inspiring our youth to reach higher. Brought to you by the Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture, and Lands.
Support our port, support our tourism.
I support building the piers because the cruise industry puts millions of dollars into our economy each year. Without that revenue, young people like me risk facing an uncertain future. Learn more and spread the word.
Looking forward, looking bright. Support our port, support our tourism.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the record, with Orit Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
All right, and welcome back to For the Record. We're in our last segment of the show this morning, so if you'd like to give us a call, toll free at 1-800-534-8255. You can ask our guests this morning, who are attorneys at law, Mrs. Teresa Pitcairn and Dr. Steve McPhail, any questions you'd like to ask them as it relates to the proposed changes to our Constitution. We finished up basically all of the sections of the Constitution where changes will be made, but there's some other things that are happening that relates to our Constitution that I think Dr. McPhail would like to touch on.
Well, the last thing is just the amendments to the interpretation section, which is section 124. In other words, it's substituting the word assembly. Mm-hmm. It's substituting parliament for the word assembly. And it's substituting reference to the office of speaker and deputy speaker, so forth, and references to members of Judicial Service Commission, Human Rights Commission. Mm-hmm. It's cleaning up those definitions. In the definition section, which is section 124 of the Constitution. So from now on, it will not be the Legislative Assembly; it will be the Parliament, and the speaker, and would be the office of the Speaker. So, as I was traversing, as I was traversing through the laws several weeks ago, I came across an amendment to the old immigration law. Mm-hmm. The new amendment to the immigration law is the Immigration Transition Law 2018, Law 33 of 2018. And for some reason, I had to look at at parts 5, the provisions relating to Caymanian, and I came across section 26, subsection 5. Mm-hmm. And I just wondered what is it about, because I would like to share this with your listeners, this new section, and wonder if we could have some idea of what it actually means. And this is how it reads. Notwithstanding subsection 4, 1b and d, where a Caymanian holds himself or herself out to be the father of a child born out of wedlock, the status or domicile of the Caymanian shall not be taken into account unless so forth. Now, when I looked at the old law, it didn't have a female as being the father of a child. It only had the male as being the father of a child. And I wonder, was that deliberate, or was that a drafted error? because it seems to me that this whole thing about same-sex marriage, that this could have been a section
in contemplation
that would have happened. Yeah. So the immigration law as it stands now defines the father of a child also as being a female.
Yeah,
being a person.
Maybe.
Pardon me?
A woman fathering a child.
So in other words, if you have a child now out of wedlock and you are applying to under this provision for the benefits of being a Caymanian, it says that someone who holds herself out to be the father of a child is also qualifies. Wow. And I just wonder if this what this section means.
It's very interesting.
And I'll read it again. Notwithstanding subsection 1b and d, where a Caymanian holds himself or herself out to be the father of a child born out of wedlock, the status or domicile of the Caymanian shall not be taken into account unless the Caymanian is able to prove to the satisfaction of the Caymanian status and permanent residence board that he is in the fact the father of the child.
Oh, wow. Just a note to our listeners that our phone lines are now closed. So I guess that part of the discussion you'll have to have in this studio this morning, because we've closed our lines off. How would something like that, be put in there and no one notices it, though?
Well, we noticed it, and we noticed it, and we wonder what's the meaning of it, right. And we would like to talk about this sometimes when we get a chance to do so, to talk about it, because as Denzel Washington said in the movie called Exterminator,
Equalizer.
The Equalizer. When you pray for rain, you also have to deal with the mud that comes along with it. So when you pray for all of these civil rights things that you want to have in your country, you have to deal with all of the mess that comes along with it also. This is one of the things that it seems that will affect us to whether they mean it or whether it's a typographical or drafting error, I don't know, but it's an anomaly in law.
Okay, well, hopefully you'll get your time in this studio or some other studio to discuss it and hopefully get some insight. But I know that you will be investigating, Dr. McPhail, so I'm sure you'll have some answers for the listening public when that time comes. As we wrap up here on our discussion this morning about the Constitution, which I think has been a very opening discussion for myself, and I'm sure it is for our listeners as well. What final words do you have for us this morning as it relates to our discussion?
I'm not going to be. I'm hoping Steve will read that poem that he shared with us at the beginning of the. Are you comfortable doing that or no? Not really.
Not really.
Okay.
Not really.
For another time.
Another time. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. But I'd like to say thank you very much for having us, and I'm really, really happy with these changes, and I'd like to say thank you to. You see, this is the thing. When I encounter our premier, and I love him to death, right? We don't share the same policy ideas necessarily, but when they're good, I'm going to say that they're good. When it makes folks uncomfortable, I will usually have a reason or evidence which confirms what I say. I don't just speak for the sake of speaking. Right. And the idea is to continue to encourage our leaders to do their job and I'm not suggesting when I say to do their job that when they make certain policies that are not in alignment with mine, that they're not doing their jobs.
Right.
But we just have a difference of views.
Right.
You don't have to like someone to do what is right for the community.
Exactly.
And what tends to happen is this juvenile behavior where they make folks that speak the truth suffer. We got to get past that, because when we
personality.
Put that, yes, yeah, and we can't be too thin-skinned about that. But thanks very much for the opportunity to have this discussion with the audience on Island and the audience that's in the diaspora. And the hope is that with time we continue to invite each other, not just in the studio, but right within our community, to listen. You know, one of the things you mentioned when we were having the conversation was about the role and importance of education. And I said something along the lines that, you know, I shouldn't have to come and tell you that you need to be educated. And by educated, I'm not talking about a bachelor's, master's, or PhD, but you must know by your lived experience when something isn't quite right, and have the confidence to say it's not right. Like, and I'm not. You know, I want to be woke. You know, this thing now, the new thing now, the new term. You know, we have to be woke.
The new buzzword.
Oh man, and get lit, as my son would say. But yeah, and it's always a pleasure having conversations with you, OCC. I haven't forgotten. You know, you might be right next to me, but with Dr. Steve.
He's great.
Yeah, he's great.
Dr. Steve, any final words from you, sir?
I would say it seems over the last several years that we have developed into a fractured political society, and we need to come together if we are going to survive as a people. These amendments actually should not require referendum. They're not controversial, they are not minor, and they are not that major that they would
need a
referendum.
Yes, need a referendum in order to get them done. And so it seems to me that we have to be conscious of our nation building and move on, always moving on towards that final goal of to be independent of other people's decision making over you. Economic, educational independence is better than political independence, but political independence also is necessary for people to feel that they are a people. You cannot have a society where politicians are fighting each other every minute. They all are elected to serve the people. It's just like one is the government and one is the government in waiting.
Yes.
One side is the government and one side is the government in waiting. And I long to see the day when I can go down to the Legislative Assembly again, like I did in the old days when we had people like the Borden twins from Borden Town, and the Benson Seabanks from West Bay, and Norman Borden, and Captain Mr. Warren Conley, and Captain Reed, and all of those people, and to hear the eloquent people like Clifton Hunter debate the issues and not shout across the aisles about personalities and stuff as if they're in a fish market. They're in a house where people, the honorable house where they're representing people, all different walks of life, all different kinds of people, and you have to reflect that difference in your demeanor when you're in this parliament now that we are going to have.
Yes,
and that's what I would like to see in the future.
All right. So Dr. Steve McPhail, Mrs. Teresa Pitcairn, it was a very lively conversation this morning. We thank you to our callers who called in and made their comments here on For the Record. We thank you for listening in this morning. We hope that you have learned a lot. I hope you've learned just as much as I have from these two brilliant Caymanian minds that we have here in our studio this morning. So thank you once again for joining us here on For the Record. We wish you a wonderful and a safe day, and hope you'll join us again tomorrow.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central, for more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. Fidelity Bank, for all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you. And Roper's Janitorial, complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.
Shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.